So is Frank Lampard the man to take over at Newcastle United? Because, media reports yesterday suggest that he is the man that Newcastle are going to approach this week to try and strike out a deal. This is the Toon Review. Hi everybody, I'm Paul back again, and like I said in the intro there, it's looking like Mr. Lampard, if you believe what the media have to say. It looks like the consortium want to approach him this week with regards to becoming the new Newcastle manager. Very interesting choice, if I'm honest, because obviously we know there's the likes of Conte, Brendan Rodgers, etc. out there. Favre's been mentioned as well, the French manager. For me, Lampard, I wouldn't say no. I think Frank Lampard has a lot to prove, especially after the job, ended at Chelsea. Now, a lot of people have said, oh, yeah, well, he got sacked at Chelsea. He wasn't very good for them. But if you look at his tenure at Chelsea, I don't think he did that badly, to be honest. Yes, it went sour in the end, and Chelsea were forced into making a change. And let's face it, the change that they made, bringing Thomas Tuchel in, was a stroke of genius, really. But for Newcastle United, maybe bringing Lampard in on an 18-month contract or something like that isn't a bad idea. We know that Lampard is a keen admirer of bringing youth into the team, which we've criticised Steve Bruce for in the past. You know, the likes of Elliot Anderson and Kellen Watts not really getting their opportunities. Lampard would be somebody that would bring these players through or be prepared to give them an opportunity. He's used to working with big-name players. We're not sure what his discipline is like within the dressing room, because we know that the new manager that comes in, whoever does eventually replace Steve Bruce, is going to have a job on their hands, because we can't sign any players until January. So he is stuck with what we've got. However, I've always said all along that our strongest starting 11 for me should be competing with most teams in the Premier League, providing that they play in the right positions and providing that he plays the right formation. Now, Frank Lampard, from what I saw at Chelsea, his football is decent. He likes to play attacking wise, and that would really give a lot of motivation to the likes of ASM, to Callum Wilson, to Almiron, to Willock, all our attacking players who, let's face it, have had shackles on them by Steve Bruce. They haven't been able to provide Newcastle United with what they were there for in the first place. You know, ASM is really the only attacking player that we have at the minute who's willing to drive forward. The rest of them get the ball and seem to turn backwards for some reason, but that's down to the manager and the way he's got the team set up and the way he tells the players to perform on the pitch. Now, we can't say that some players need a good kick up the arse because they haven't performed this season, and I'll go along with that. You know, so this new manager, whoever it may be, is going to have to give some of these players a rocket. Now, is Lampard the type of manager to do that? Behind the scenes, a lot of players who've played for him said he is that type of manager. He will give players an opportunity to perform, but he will also kick arse when it's needed. And, you look at the choice now, Steve Bruce or Frank Lampard, I take Lampard every day of the week. Lampard has worked under some of the best managers in the world, and he's taken a lot from them. He's even said in interviews that he's taken a lot from them. We criticise Steve Bruce for saying, he's worked under Sir Alex Ferguson. How on earth has he not taken any of his traits into his managerial career? Because he simply hasn't. Bruce has been very stubborn in that way. He's tried to do things his own way, and it hasn't always worked for Steve Bruce. That's why his managerial record is so poor. But when you talk about Frank Lampard, he's worked under Mourinho, as well as other managers, and he will have taken a lot. He'll have learned a lot in the dressing room from that, which I think is a big, big thing. And the likes of, Isaac Hayden and Shelvey and people like that who've slackened off recently. I know Shelvey's been injured, but you know what I mean, who has one good game in 10. This is the type of manager who will demand respect and demand that the team performs. And like I say, he's got a lot to prove. And what better way to prove yourself as a manager than bring Newcastle United up the table and winning trophies? If he gets something like an 18-month contract, that for me will be perfect, because he'll get the opportunity this season to to guide us to safety, and he'll also get the opportunity next season to build in the summer and see what he can actually do with a pot of money. And, as for attracting players, I don't think Lampard would have a problem attracting players because he's well known. He's a well-known person throughout the world, certainly for his playing career. Maybe not his managerial one yet, but he has the respect of a lot of players around the world. And certainly, if we get a director of football in, that will also help him. Rangnick, he comes in as director of football. He has the opportunity to work with Frank Lampard together to bring players in. So for me, it's not a bad shout at all. I know people are saying, well, we want Conte. Conte may be asking for very, very different things. We may well have already approached him and he's already turned around and said, I'm not going to take it because I'm not getting what I want. We know that he wants, he's already stated that if he came to Newcastle, he would want full transfer responsibility for bringing players in, etc. Now, if we have a director of football in there, he's obviously going to be involved in recruiting players as well. So that may not suit Conte. But for somebody like Frank Lampard, it probably will. Because, let's face it, he's got an opportunity, if he comes to Newcastle, to become an absolute legend here. We haven't won a trophy for so long. So Frank Lampard is the man to take the club forward and actually win something with Newcastle. He could achieve legendary status up here. And he's already sort of managed Chelsea, so, he's not going to go back there in any hurry, is he? You know what I mean? He's going to want to establish himself. He's going to want to really, really prove himself as a manager. Because I don't think he really got the opportunity at Chelsea to turn it round. When things were going a bit sour, he didn't get the opportunity. Now, everybody will come on board saying, he got sacked at Chelsea, There's managers all over the world, world-class managers, by the way, who've been fired in the past. All managers get fired. That's a fact. They all do. So, in my opinion, that is irrelevant. When we were talking about, before the takeover, Eddie Howe coming in, people were saying, he was sacked at Bournemouth. Yeah, he was, but look at the job he did before that. You've got to take that into consideration, that managers all over the world get sacked. When things start going a bit sour at the club they're at, that doesn't mean they're not a good manager. I've always admired Frank Lampard as a player, no doubt about it. Absolutely fantastic. And I think he will demand respect in the dressing room. So if these media reports coming out in the papers yesterday afternoon are true, I wouldn't say no to Lampard. Let's face it. We look at Steve Bruce or Frank Lampard to take us forward. Lampard will have the connections, especially with the director of football, and I think he can take Newcastle forward. Now, they're not going to give him a beastly contract like Mike Ashley normally does with managers. 6-7 year contracts here and there. They'll probably start him off on an 18-month, like I say. Give him this season to get us safe. Give him next season to spend a bit of money and see what he can do with some top-class players. And be part of the progression. Be part of the ambition at Newcastle United. And I know some people will be sort of underwhelmed a little bit with Frank Lampard. But come on, yes, there's Brendan Rodgers out there. We'd probably have to pay a fortune to get him from Chelsea. Not that it would matter, but you know what I'm saying. Conte, maybe the Newcastle structure that they want to put into place doesn't agree with Conte. He wants to do things himself. Maybe that's not how Newcastle are going to work, especially if we bring in a director of football. So it's very interesting to see what will happen. But at the minute, of course, Steve Bruce is still the manager, and he took training yesterday. We still don't know what's going to happen with that. Rumour has it that today or tomorrow might be an announcement that he's not going to be manager. We know the press conferences have been cancelled regarding, talking about his 1,000th game and things like that. So there is an opportunity there, I think, for Newcastle to let him go. But I think they want somebody in place first. I think they want an agreement with somebody so that when Steve Bruce is relieved of his duties, they can bring somebody in straight away, rather than sack Steve Bruce and then have to go after a manager. I think it's a very sensible idea. Now, has Steve Bruce been informed that is what Newcastle United are doing? That is very interesting for me. Has Amanda Staveley said to Steve Bruce, look, we are going to be bringing somebody else in. You will get your payoff. Can you just run the ship until we get somebody in? I think, for Steve Bruce, I mean, if that was me, I'd tell them to get lost, knowing that I was going to get the sack. But you never know. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes, especially when we're talking about an £8 million payoff. Steve Bruce is not a stupid man. I think he knows his time is limited now, no matter what he says about wanting to give it a go and things like that. I think he understands the situation. It's a little bit unfair on him, if I'm honest, but, I don't really hold any sympathy towards Steve Bruce at the moment because of the performances, what he said in the past. I don't really have any loyalty to Steve Bruce, quite honestly. And I don't think he deserves a payoff of £8 million for doing absolutely sod all at Newcastle United. But that's by the by. Like I say, they may approach Lampard, get his verbal agreement to say, yes, I will come and be the manager, and then they will dispose of Steve Bruce. So they're going to bring somebody in, so it's a very, very quick transition. I've heard rumours that Graham Jones doesn't want to be temporary manager anyway, so, somebody in place would make a lot of sense. So there's my view. I think Lampard, for me, I'd say yes, and he'd certainly have my full backing, and I think whoever does come in needs the full backing of the Newcastle United fans, because they'll have the new manager will have this consortium behind him 100%, and we have to trust in what they do. So thank you very much for watching the video. If you have enjoyed it, please do smash the like button as usual. Really, really does help me build the channel. And if you're new to the channel, you like what you see and you haven't already done so, please do consider subscribing. Very, very near to the 4,000 now and continue to rise. The channel is growing very, very quickly. And that's all down to you guys out there. So thank you very much for that. Do enjoy the rest of your week. As I say, if there's any news regarding Steve Bruce's departure, I will be doing a live stream for it. But if not, I'll be doing the match preview live on Friday night with Danielle, trying to get a Tottenham fan on, but we'll see if we can or not. But in the meantime, guys, have a fantastic last part of the week, and I'll see you soon. Take care.